Hi, I'm Mark Huirua and welcome to my video Mathematical Proof that God Exists Part 6b. In this video we continue our discussion, and if you haven't already watched Part 6a, I encourage you to do so. The video is available on YouTube. So moving on from 6a, we're looking for ideas displaying this criteria. And our next example is a biggie. It's really showing that science boiled down to gravity and light. And if I asked you to write down your top 5 scientists, I'm sure Newton and Einstein would be on the list. And both Newton and Einstein had much to say, and much, I suppose, revolutionized scientific advancement with their ideas about gravity and light. So Sir Isaac Newton, best known, I guess, for the story of an apple falling off a tree, hitting him on the head, and inspiring him to come up with a law of gravity. But what's interesting is what he did with the idea, and that's transformed his thoughts into language and into words, and published this book, Principia Mathematica, one of his biggest achievements, probably the one he's most recognized for. He didn't explain what gravity is, and science still hasn't done that today, much the same way as that science has struggled to come up with an explanation of what energy is, what light is, what thought is. What he did do was come up with a law of gravity. So he made an observation, he came up with some laws. It's the laws of gravity that we use today, of course, to explain reality itself. But as far as the substance of what gravity is, we're still light years away from that. Now, Isaac Newton, also known for his work in optics, and it was his discovery of white light being split up into the spectrum of 7 colours of the rainbow. And this idea, again a revolutionary idea, transformed into words and language and published in this book, Optics. So these two books, Principia Mathematica and Optics, Newton's big achievements, even had an epitaph proposed by Alexander Pope for his work on light. I like this. God said, "Let Newton be, and all was light." Sir Isaac Newton, when asked what's the source of his inspiration, his quote involving, I suppose, by always thinking, keeping the subject constantly before me, little by little, waiting for the first dawnings into the full light. So there's the recursive mind clearly at play there. Albert Einstein's 2 theories of relativity, also really about gravity and light. The special theory is this one, where c here is the speed of light, describing what happens when objects begin to travel at speeds close to light, and also the equivalence of energy to matter through light. This the general theory of relativity, not something I think many people are aware of, but Einstein's general theory of relativity relates to gravity. More in that his explanation of gravity differs from Newton's, in that Einstein suggests that space, the nature of space itself, is curved or gets curved around massive objects. It's the curvature of space that allows light, which is simply just following space, to bend in the presence of a massive object. So the nature of space itself explaining gravity. Look, I think Roger Penrose probably would agree with that. Very prominent in this whole area of the nature of space. Remember, we found Roger's twistor theory, which explains the nature of space at its very fundamental level, the fabric itself of nature of space being a curvature, or a this very recursive process. So it's interesting that gravity and light are really the two big subjects of science today, and that hasn't changed. And Newton and Einstein, both known for their achievements in gravity and light, and both our unique identifiers being the traditional images for gravity and light, in much the same way as they are our unique identifiers in the Bible and the A4, the International Paper Standards. So coming back to Genesis 1 and A4 paper, we've already seen that the value 913 is the value of the first word. It's also very evident in our A4 grid, where 913 was the sum of the Genesis numbers with their symmetrical partners. So is there a relationship between 913 and ISO 216? And ISO 216, just as a reminder, is the International Standards Code for our A4 paper sizes. Well, there is actually a symmetry, because when you do this, you get that. And it's the symmetry that comes out quite strongly in the A4 grid. So I thought that was interesting, that we have that a unique number pattern being repeated in these two things. So putting it all together, we've got the ideas being expressed or transformed into language. By the way, if you were to include the Beatles in here somehow, that would then be sung word and music, songwriting, or written lyrics. You then have the language coming out through into the world. So it's a very interesting finding, and it's, of course, it's what we're looking for. It's exactly what we're looking for to support our framework. The unique identifier, the attributes of a torus, which is the mathematical expression of the recursive mind, and recursive process, of course, being the unifying factor that allows for the transformation from one world to the next. And when we see the uniqueness identified in different human minds, that's what we're looking for to evidence the coexistence of a divine mind. And it's the coexistence we believe would have to be the source of inspiration for many of these ideas, such as Newton's law of gravity and his discoveries on light. And I guess you have to ask, well, what would you expect from a divine mind that wished itself to be discovered? And something over the last 2,000 to 2,500 years, if people are discovering the unique mind, a divine mind in action, and the divine mind wanted itself to be discovered, what sort of things would we expect from such a mind? And I would think all of these things down here, and more, of course, this simply being a sample. But in terms of a divine mind, putting into divine thinking, creating a universe, exactly the sort of universe that we're living in, a universe displaying these attributes, would allow us therefore to plan and make plans, undertake our plans. You need symmetry, you need beauty, you need order, you need laws, you need dreams, hopes, love, morality, integrity, risk, passion, all the things that make life what it is. In my way of thinking, it seems to me these would be exactly the sorts of attributes I would expect, or the sorts of things I would expect a divine mind to do if it wanted to be discovered. And so the next question is, of course, well, what do these two things mean to you? I think there's a ton of meaning in each of these. What do they mean to you? Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy this video, please do watch the next video. Until then, Mark out.